As you can see, guns are being taken out. Police are in re-pursuit of this vehicle that has been going pretty fast here through the streets, and it does seem like its vehicle is getting a little wear and tear. We saw a little bit earlier it going over some speed bumps pretty fast. That's going to damage your vehicle. Not that a lot of people are concerned about the condition of the vehicle, obviously concerned about the safety of everyone else here in this area. I did hear a report earlier saying that so far no other vehicles have been hit by this car that's being pursued by the Los Angeles Police Department. There may possibly be a suspect who has already bailed, but we did hear there's possibly 3 suspects inside of this car. I'm hearing from our chopper feed that they are clocking this car at sometimes about 80 miles per hour. As you can see, this vehicle is turning through oncoming traffic, driving down the wrong side of the lanes. It does look like they are getting close to the Sun Valley area. And it does look like he's left police pretty far behind in this pursuit, so obviously they are going to be hoping that they can slow those speeds down a little bit. Again, hearing reports that one of our choppers was clocking speeds up to 80 miles per hour, now getting onto the freeway. That's just going to cause a little bit more problems for police as they continue to pursue this vehicle through the Los Angeles area. Just a reminder for a lot of people watching this chase happen, this is obviously a time when people are headed home from work, maybe headed out for their own evening plans. They don't know there's a chase going on. All they see is this car driving erratically, zipping in and out of traffic, especially earlier when he was driving through more residential areas, not on the freeway. It can be very confusing for the people sitting there in traffic. As you can see, we are still following along with Skyfox up in the air, giving us this live look at this police chase, again in the Los Angeles area. Police earlier had re-engaged their pursuit, trying to get right behind that suspect's vehicle, even at a stoplight where he had gotten stuck, getting out of the car, drawing their guns, probably yelling directions that they wanted him to follow. And the car continued on, so will we. We're going to continue to watch this chase as it happens live in Los Angeles. It does sound like possibly 2 suspects that were inside of the car had already been dropped off. You can see they're trying to, the driver's trying to outmaneuver police, turning around, jumping back on the freeway. Again, this is all happening in the Los Angeles area. Speeding back up, trying to go through cars here on the freeway. Looks like he's going to take another exit, try to lose police another time in a different direction. And once again, driving in the inappropriate lanes, turning during a time when he was not instructed to by those traffic lights, obviously ignoring all the traffic laws here, especially when you're running away from police that are in pursuit of your vehicle. As I mentioned before, I didn't hear any reports of him colliding with any other vehicles in the way, so hopefully that will continue to happen and police are able to safely stop this pursuit. And it does seem like this driver is going northbound now on the 170, changing directions, again trying to elude police. You can see that the chopper has put up that miles per hour and map to give us a little clue as to where this chase is happening. As we mentioned earlier, speeds had gotten up to 80 miles per hour. It looks like we are back in that same territory as far as speeds go. Of course, when you're on a freeway, speeds are going to be much higher, but again, when you're zipping in and out of traffic, going at high speeds, it can mean for a dangerous situation for all drivers there. So continuing to keep our eyes on this situation that's unfolding here in the Los Angeles area as police pursue this vehicle that earlier had 3 suspects inside, hearing reports that 2 of those passengers may have gotten out of the car. We do know there is at least 1 person inside driving recklessly as police pursue their vehicle. Earlier we were seeing police were still in pursuit of this vehicle. Obviously now getting onto the 170 and changing directions multiple times, it might be a little bit harder for police to continue a close pursuit. I did hear a report that California Highway Patrol should be helping step in here shortly. Hopefully they can help remedy this situation that's happening right now live in California.
Wonder if this person will get off the freeway again. It is now 6 o'clock. This is the time we usually bring you the Big Bang Theory, but we are breaking into that programming to bring you live, special breaking news coverage of yet another high-speed pursuit on Southern California's freeways. I'm Alex Michelson with Christine Devine. Our police specialist Dennis Zine is on the phone line helping us with our coverage right now as we approach the 6 o'clock hour. And now this driver of a Toyota Camry, who we believe is wanted potentially for stealing this vehicle, is getting off the freeway at Sheldon.
All right, so Dennis, we have been on the freeways and off the freeways. For anybody just joining us now, we've been following this pursuit for, well, it started during our 5 o'clock newscast. We're continuing to watch this driver. Look at the dangerous move here on the wrong side of the road,
approaching another car. Now a busy intersection. Uh-oh, here we go. Now these cars stopping, and he's going back. Now he's going on the right direction. But scary there for those drivers. Thankfully, everybody was able to stop, but that was a close call there at 6:01.
This is continuing coverage of the Fox 11 5 o'clock news, and we're looking at the speeds of this driver. We talked about this being the Jewish holiday, so the streets might not be as busy.
Look at this, 95 miles an hour, Christine.
That's insane.
On a side street.
Yeah. So our tracker allows you to see the speeds of this driver. Why the need to drive at these speeds? Perhaps because the road is as wide open as it is. This driver clearly trying to get away from law enforcement.
There's no question. This is not just a traffic violator. This is something very serious, whether it's a robbery or assault deadly weapon or a burglary 459, some serious violation. Again, there were 3 people in the car. We don't know if there's more than one the driver at this time, but we know that 2 people jumped out of the car minutes ago. So as we see this continuing driving pattern in a careless, reckless manner, endangering everyone that's on the road, whether they're in a car, pedestrian, bicycle riders, etc. And so fortunately, the traffic is not as heavy as it normally would be. But this driving is very, very serious and very dangerous. And
Dennis, we should note, because of the way this driver is driving, the helicopter is following this. The police units have backed off because of the safety. We've been on Laurel Canyon and Branford Street. If you know this area, an area to be, concerned about if you're in this area. I don't see a lot of pedestrians on the street, so that's a good thing. But at this hour,
have we stopped?
Kids are home from school.
There's people out there. Have we stopped here?
And just a reminder, we are listening into KTTV's feed that they are doing live on the air, breaking in, talking about this police pursuit that they've been following since, as you could hear, after their 5 o'clock newscast had started. So this has been going on for 1 hour. This driver's been going through residential areas. It's been going through different communities, even getting on the freeway, which we've been showing you. Of course, we're going to be here watching it live as police, as you can see, continue their pursuit, meeting up with them at different intersections. Drivers unknown if it's for sure a male or a female, and the reason why they are running from police. But again, going to be listening back into KTTV's feed that they have.
Now you've got the driver, if the driver's solo at this particular time. Interesting to see what those other 2 people were doing. Whatever they were doing, those 2 people are gone. Hopefully the officers have tracked them to some extent, but they want this car and they want this driver.
Really speeding. Look at this, through this road, going right through a stop sign, right near cars that are just flying by. Some of the streets we've been on recently, Osborne, Hardin, Haddon, these are not wide streets. And very, very dangerous maneuvers for this driver who really could crash into any of these people.
And Alex, as you said, not a wide street, especially here. It's really narrowed to become a lot more residential with cars parked on the side of the road there and cars driving. But the way this guy is going, easily an accident could happen.
Well, you're looking at a very serious accident because you're in a quiet residential area going through every stop sign there is. People the other direction, if they have no stop sign, they're going to proceed through the intersection, get broadsided. This could turn into a very, very serious situation where people are very seriously injured. But no total disregard for everyone on the roadway and wants to get away. But again, we have the unit, the helicopter, we have the ground units. But the ground units are going to lay back. They don't want to get too close. and create a situation where this driver drives worse than they're driving now, more hazardous for everyone on the roadway, pedestrians, motorcycle riders, you name it. But going through those stop signs, when you've got stop signs just in one direction, those people coming through on the no stop sign, the through intersection, that's where you have a real hazard where they can get broadsided. Now they're in a tight residential neighborhood, driving around, very serious. We'll see pedestrians, we'll see people in this particular community just doing their afternoon activities, and this individual or individuals, the suspect, a total disregard for everyone. Again, we're continuing seeing this very hazardous driving pattern. What they're wanted for, we don't know, but obviously the units that are pursuing know exactly what they're wanted for.
Dennis, I'm watching this driver here who's gone on the freeways and then off the freeway and on and off. And there are several freeways this motorist could take, the 5, the 118, the 170, the 210. We're in the Pacoima area. But this driver right now on Van Nuys Boulevard is staying on surface streets. Does that tell you anything?
Well, familiar with the area. Otherwise, they jump on the freeway and flee. But I would guess that this individual knows the community, lives in this community, and has committed crimes in this community, and just very familiar, knowing where they're going, think they're going to lose the police. But again, you've got a police helicopter overhead watching, broadcasting, and now we're in a heavily populated area, in a business community, residential community, and I would think that the person knows that think they're going to get away. We may see a bail where they stop, jump out, and take off on foot. But we have the black and whites in that area, but this driving pattern tells me they're familiar with this neighborhood. Otherwise, they jump out of it and get into another area, down on the freeway, and then take off north, south, east, or west on one of the local freeways, because you're very, very close to those freeways, the 170, the 210, the 5, et cetera. So what we see happening is they're desperately trying to flee and thinking that their driving is going to give them an opportunity to elude the police. But again, in the old days, if you didn't have a helicopter overhead, they may have eluded the police. But it's very difficult to do that when you have helicopters overhead. And I'm sure it's not just LAPD. There's other units, CHP, et cetera, that are going to be converted.
And of course, Skyfox as well, overhead, following along.
And Skyfox communicates with the law enforcement. Again, you'll have multiple helicopters overhead from different media. They all communicate. They keep it safe in the sky, and it continues to inform the public. So there's a cooperative effort when it comes to communicating back and forth between the air units overhead, just as law enforcement, whether it's Sheriff's Highway Patrol, LAPD, Burbank, Glendale, they all communicate. So that's critical for the safety of everyone, including those in the chopper overhead.
So now we're on San Fernando Road, back on Van Nuys, I should say, as this driver continues to move in around this neighborhood, sort of in circles a little bit. We've seen some very high speeds, over 90 miles an hour on some of these side streets. We've seen people get out of this vehicle already, and now we see the driver driving quickly again. He or she has not had a problem driving on the wrong side of the road when needed. And now we see some pedestrians.
Yeah.
Although this driver, as dangerously as this driver has driven, this person has also slowed down to avoid things like pedestrians or other cars or other things. I mean, this person seems to be pretty aware of potential dangers as well.
And we are listening into KTTV's feed. That is Fox 11 out in Los Angeles, California, and that is exactly who is following this chase very closely. They've been talking and watching this for over an hour now. As you heard, they are uncertain of the true identity of the driver, but they do know and saw it live while they were covering it during their 5 p.m. newscast that there were 2 other people inside of the vehicle. At least one of those people had been dropped off during the police pursuit. So again, this is an unknown reason behind the police pursuit. There isn't information on that. We do know this is a dark blue Toyota Avalon, and Los Angeles Police Department in pursuit. We're going to listen back in to our Fox 11 team's coverage of this police chase, again out in California.
Decided To back off a little bit, is there any thought of trying to do some sort of spike strip or some sort of pit maneuver or anything on these streets to?
Well, this is an ideal location where you have the residential area. That's an ideal location to do the spike strip, but you have to pre-deploy for that, and they don't know what street this individual is going down. So you've got to pre-deploy and get the units out there. And it's hazardous for the officers because they're going to step out on the roadway to deploy the spike strip. But what you have right now is going in and out of different streets. It's going to be difficult to do that. I don't know how many units they have converging on that location. The number of them that are in close proximity is directed by the air unit. It's probably Air 16 that's overhead monitoring this and broadcasting the situation. So as you see the many, many residential streets, which street are they going to pick? He's going, or she or he with a suspect, right and left, this street, that street, who knows where they're going to go. So you've got to have some kind of idea so you can pre-deploy those spike strips. So they got to get ahead of this vehicle in order to make that happen.
Well, I'm wondering too, Dennis, with the street being so wide and not a lot of traffic, couldn't this car easily avoid a spike strip?
They could, but when you deploy it, you're concealed, you're behind vehicles, and as it gets very close, if they want to deploy on both sides of the street, that's possible, but they're long enough, you can throw it out, and you can be on the side where the vehicles are, use the vehicles for concealment, and as it's approaching, you throw it out, so it surprises the driver. The driver's not really aware that the spike strip's going to come out and then pop out the tires, which brings it to a real quick halt, because now you're going on bald tires, and they deflate real quick with the spike strip. So that's an opportunity, but in this driving pattern, as you see going in and out these residential streets, it would be very, very difficult unless you have a number of units, the ground units, that are there to deploy that. But as it stands now, we know that units have backed off. They're not in close proximity. They will be in the vicinity. The air unit is broadcasting exactly. There's a situation, you see a bicycle rider. This is extremely hazardous what this person's doing, and spike strip would be a great idea. The pit maneuver would be great, but the pit maneuver, you've got to be right on top of that vehicle.
Yeah.
And right now they're not.
All right, location is Van Nuys. Oh, sorry, we moved on there to Terabella.
We've now moved into the city of Arleta.
Right.
As our technology is showing.
All part of the northeast San Fernando Valley. All part of that north area of the San Fernando Valley, northeast of the San Fernando Valley. And it's close proximity to freeways, whether it's the 210 or 170 up to the 5. If the individual wants to get out of that neighborhood, there's close proximity to freeways. But it looks like they just want to go continuing through the neighborhoods. And that's exactly where we see it, through the neighborhoods, through the residential and the business neighborhoods. And those neighborhoods are heavily populated. A lot of folks in those neighborhoods. A lot of children, a lot of people coming home from work. So it's very hazardous. But you can understand if there's a series of black and whites behind with the red light and siren, the individuals would go faster, and they try to have that individual slow down and not to feel the pressure of black and whites with the siren chasing.
So Dennis, we're getting some more information from the Foothill Division. This is a possible gang member with a gun.
And a stolen vehicle.
And possibly a stolen vehicle. So that's some of the possibilities they're now working with, which may inform their choices of how they approach this individual. It may be why they have backed off this individual a little bit to try to give their officers some space for their own safety. And it may inform some of their decisions, if and when this pursuit comes to an end, how they would then approach this individual.
Well, if there's a possibility the individual has a weapon, we don't know if this individual does or the people who bailed had weapons, so it becomes extremely hazardous for the officers as well as the community. And that black and white they originally saw that was used by the gang units, that would then connect with the gang officers that initially got in pursuit with this individual. And then gang members out there capering, doing whatever they're doing that was obviously illegal. And this would be unusual to have a stolen car with them at the same time.
And so our location now is Arleta, which is southwest of Pacoima. It is southwest of the 118 and the 170 freeways there. We talked about this suspect getting back onto freeways, but he's chosen to stay, or he or she, on surface streets for a while now. We picked up this pursuit about a half hour ago, and now we're just kind of going in this same general area near Arleta now, Pacoima, Sun Valley. So Dennis, Is this suspect, you think, just circling, ever going to try to bail? I mean, the pressure's got to be off without the vehicles behind him, but you still have that helicopter, but the vehicles have backed off for safety reasons.
Exactly, but I don't think the individual recognizes there's a chopper overhead, or at least a police chopper. I'm sure there's other choppers above, Sky Foxes overhead, but they're at a distance unless that individual's putting the head out the window to recognize that, especially with the speed. The vehicle in motion, probably unaware that the air unit's overhead. Looks in the rear. Well,
I would think they'd be fully aware that the chopper's been following them for at least 30 minutes.
Yeah, you can hear that. Okay, so now we're going towards a gas station.
Through a gas station.
In and out. So we didn't stop for gas. I mean, they are high gas prices these days.
When you're fleeing, you're looking for black and whites behind you with the lights. I don't think you're.
Well, there's a black and white behind him that just made a turn. So we see one of those helicopters. We see a black and white that is getting closer. We see another making a turn. So it appears that maybe LAPD is about to get a little more aggressive here. So now they're making their.
Just ran too.
Wow. Okay. So now we're getting up. Now we're up to over 100 miles an hour. Look at this on the side streets. This is where we have some real danger as we approach these intersections. You can see that this individual is driving more determined now that he saw those LAPD officers behind him in pursuit. So really picking up the speed past 90 miles an hour here, right through that intersection. Looks like he has a lot of open road here, which is good for his perspective as we really flying down the road. Look at this.
Ooh, more police vehicles. Go ahead, Dennis.
This is the consequence when you've got black and whites behind. This is what they normally do. They accelerate, and that's why the units back off, so they won't be driving at this excessive speed. But this individual, obviously, this has been going on for quite a while. You'll see the black and whites continuing, and as they get closer, this individual is going to accelerate even more. They don't want to injure the public, and going through those red lights mid-phase against traffic, now you have a real hazard to the innocent motoring public. That's the way they have to weigh that back and forth and decide we need to apprehend, but we don't want to injure innocent people. As you can see, this speed, getting a crash at 70-plus miles an hour, it's not going to be a pretty situation.
Yeah. Dennis, we're hearing they're back now in tracking mode, and it seemed to me that it wasn't an officer following the vehicle, it was an officer in the opposite direction who flipped a U and then was then chasing the vehicle for a moment.
And then another follow. So now we're in a parking lot of a shopping center. You see a Target
on
there.
Laurel Canyon.
Some kids out shopping with their parents, turning around, busy parking lot there.
I've been to that Target. There's restaurants, there's shops.
Yeah, but it appears that this driver is not bailing, getting out of that parking lot and continuing to drive quickly.
Because we've seen before they run into a department store, especially a huge Target, then
there's a crowd. Dennis, he just passed a crowd there of people on the streets. Seemed to slow for just a second, but I don't know if the crowd is acknowledging of him or knows what's going on. Just a little crowd there. So
we're on Laurel Canyon Boulevard in Pacoima.
And as we continue on this road, okay, there we go. I see the crowd now.
Yeah.
So Dennis, of course, is on a little bit delay as he's looking at this picture. We now move on to Branford. We are in the Pacoima area once again, which is where we've seen the majority of this action. Christine, as you mentioned, that white shirt, I wonder if the driver has now put the window down, because it seems much more clear to see that white shirt that the driver has as the driver goes above 60 miles an hour on this side street of Branford, making a left turn here. We have seen very dangerous maneuvers in this.
And we're back on Telfer yet again in Pacoima. Dennis, you know, I'm so glad to see the vehicle did not stay in. Was that the park we were at before?
That might be that, I don't know if it was a park. I think it was a home where the person stopped before, where the people are out. So you got to think that there's some sort of relationship or dynamic, something that leads that person to that particular home.
Or Telfer,
that was
for sure.
That was the same exact location, hidden by the trees. So the person's obviously familiar with this neighborhood, leaving through this neighborhood, trying to find a place probably to bail and escape. Those people at fence may be the the relatives, the friends, the associates, whatever the case may be. But you see, continuing in the same neighborhood and not getting on the freeway, not going out broader in the valley, but staying basically in that northeast San Fernando Valley area, which is not unusual if you know the territory, you know the area. And if you're a gang member, you know the territory very, very well.
Yeah. Well, I'm just personally glad to see that car did not stay in that area where that shopping mall is. It's a very busy Target. I've been there many times. There are restaurants.
Oh, look at the front. Look at the front.
Huh. We see that from time to time.
Is that was that the wheel or is that the engine itself? Yeah.
And we've seen it a couple times.
Which is a bad sign. I mean, they're putting a lot of stress on this car, the way that they're driving. So you wonder if they're going to try to bail now. Okay, so we're going into another parking lot and just using that as a maneuver. You see an LAPD vehicle there. Are they going to turn? Now really smoking. So you wonder if this person is going to have to bail somewhere, find some place to park this car for their own safety. The front right tire is where we think that it's out or popped or some damage to it, which is.
How did that happen? High rate of speed, Dennis?
Well, the brakes given out, the tire ready to explode. I mean, the driver was going extremely speed. We don't know what kind of condition those tires are in. But there's definitely something that caused in the front of that car, the right front side, either the brakes or the tire, one or the other, brakes or tire given out. And you can't go too far without brakes or tires.
Well, we're back on Laurel Canyon yet again in Pacoima, again still in the same general area as we've seen from day one, moment one of this pursuit. We've been on it for more than a half an hour now. The gang unit has been following this vehicle here, the helicopter now overhead. We've been talking about why you don't see LAPD vehicles behind this car. That's because of the high rate of speed when this vehicle does see an LAPD unit.
How does the fact that this tire may be out, how does that impact the LAPD's tactics, Dennis?
It's not going to impact. What they want to do is have the car come to a halt. They want it to stop.
Okay.
If it gets out and runs, they'll chase, but they don't care. You know, they just want it stopped. However it happens, whether it's a spike strip, the engine blows, the tire, the brakes give out, they just want it stopped before anyone gets hurt, including the individual, the suspect in this particular case. That's their goal, to bring it to a safe conclusion, and that way it'll be successful as far as the tactics of the officers that have been deployed on this. Again, you're going to have a lot of foothill units that are in that general vicinity. If it's individual bails, they'll be there ready to take on. We probably have the K9 units en route also from Metro. So whatever the case may be, they're going to be prepared for that. But if you weren't familiar with this neighborhood, you'd get out of the neighborhood. This obviously person knows this neighborhood. And if it's a gangbanger, they know the neighborhood very well. So this is not uncommon territory for this individual in the stolen car, as we've been told, on possibly with a weapon. So very serious charges, whatever they were involved in. But again, there were 3 at one time, and now we know there's at least 1. But as we saw, 2 bailed out a while back. So this has been going on. I don't know exactly what time it started, but we're now at 6:23. So
and we've been on it since at least 5:45.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 45 minutes at time.
So the driver just passed under the 5 freeway here, back now in Arleta, which is to the southwest of Pacoima. Again, staying in this same general area. Now coming up on about 6:24, almost 6:30. So Dennis, the street's much more wide open at this hour on a Monday night. Much more room for this driver to try to make this escape here. But yet the driver has not shown any sign of attempting to bail. Sometimes they play cat and mouse with LAPD and the officers following them. But no attempt at all to kind of hint that they're trying to bail.
No. No, if it's a gang member, I'm sure the individual's had encounters with the police, especially Foothill Division in the past. It wouldn't be uncommon. So what they're trying to do is escape. And if it's a stolen car, if that's the case, so you got a stolen car, you got GTA, you got whatever gang activity, you have a weapon, whether they're involved in a robbery, a burglary, ADW, it's all kinds of possibilities. But the intention is to bring this individual into custody in a safe manner, impound the car, book the individual, and call it a code 4. That's what the officers want to do. That's what the supervisors want to do. And the supervisors monitoring this and these officers are being told, back off, go to a tracking mode, let the air unit take over, because you know what happens, as we saw, when they're on this individual's tail, that individual is going excessive speeds. That's exactly what they don't want to see.
But because they are in tracking mode, it also means that a lot of the other folks on the roads probably don't know what's going on, don't realize that there is a pursuit happening right there, and they just sort of are there right in the middle of it and not realizing that this person could have a gun and is clearly driving dangerously in the midst of rush hour at 6:26 now on the streets of Pacoima.
So what they weigh is the safety of the public, and the concern is the safety of the public. The apprehension is critical, it's important, but safety of the public is what's paramount. I went to Pursuit School recently, a refresher from LAPD Pursuit, and the fact is you have care and consideration for the general public, and if the suspect escapes and no individuals are harmed, then that's success. You don't want to harm individuals. You don't want to hurt people who are doing absolutely nothing wrong by the driving of this individual or any person who's in a pursuit. Now, on a freeway, you don't have all the hazards. You don't have driveways, shopping centers. On a freeway, it's a lot different. But in this particular area where you have everything available, parked cars, driveways, shopping centers, homes, etc., a lot of hazards, tremendous amount of hazards.
Pursuit School, is that something for training for LAPD officers every year?
Well, there's refresher courses. I'm still a reserve with LAPD, so there's certain classes I have to take, and that was one I recently took at the academy, actually David Center, where we had updated on pursuit training. And again, the concern is safety of the public. So it's not worth apprehending an individual and having an innocent person injured or, God forbid, killed in a pursuit when you chase an individual. But again, they have the license plate. If it's a stolen car, they know. Again, the air unit with that tracking opportunity to keep track of that situation. But we know here on Fox 11, we've seen pursuits where there have been collisions, very serious collisions, broadside at intersections.
Yeah, you see that speed going up right now because he just saw an officer behind him, and that has been the case we have seen where the speed really rockets up. Now over 100 miles an hour. Wow, just missed a vehicle there, really speeding as
in a residential area. This is a residential area. So that's the concern. When you back off, the speeds normally slow down. So if there is a collision, it's not going to be as severe as a vehicle striking at 100 miles per hour into a motorist vehicle, especially a compact or subcompact or a motorcycle rider or a bicycle rider. There's all kinds of possibilities. But again, public safety is paramount.
Back to those same people that are hanging out there talking to this person as we drive in a circle now.
As you can hear, we are still listening in with our sister station, Fox 11 Los Angeles. That's KTTV. They are following this pursuit live on their air during their newscast. Let's continue to listen in as they give us a little bit more detail on this pursuit that's been happening for over an hour now in Los Angeles.
But something brings those people out.
Well, again, still in Pacoima, I'm thinking word might travel quickly if there's a pursuit in your neighborhood with helicopters overhead repeatedly for at least 30, 45 minutes here. Again, Telfair Avenue, I've said it like 5 times now, so we're back on this same street here.
And you can see we are just a little bit ahead of what their feed is, but once again, this driver stopped in the same location that earlier KTTV had found or saw a passenger or suspect in the car get out. It looks like the driver has stepped out of the car waiting for police to catch up with him. It does look like it is a male who was the driver of this vehicle. Stopped on the side of a residential area. Hopefully police are not too far behind. It looks like he is surrendering himself. Police now on scene, guns drawn, giving direction to him about what needs to happen, what he needs to do. Walking backwards slowly, hands out. They are probably going to tell him to get down on the ground and lay flat until an officer can come up and search this suspect. Again, it's believed that this possibly could have been a gang member with a weapon. Unknown why those other people were standing near him when he was off to the side giving himself away. I'm sure officers are going to be questioning those witnesses soon, asking many things from how do you know this suspect to why did they stop here. You can see the suspect is laying on the ground, still listening to the directions of the officers here in this neighborhood in California. Does seem that the suspect knows that running into the house for safety, if he does know the owners of this house, may have been a lost cause because of police helicopter that was up above him. Police were pretty close to his vehicle, even despite his maneuvering through residential areas and around this area, multiple different speeds. Sometimes we saw him going over 80 miles per hour. Other times you saw him even stopping at stop signs to try to wait for traffic. The good news of the end of this pursuit is that we didn't see anyone get hurt. Hopefully police were able to follow up with the other two suspects that were inside of the car at the beginning of this pursuit. Again, Los Angeles Police Department here probably going to walk up slowly to that suspect to conduct a quick search as they take him into custody. And now we are watching the officers making their approach to that vehicle. They may be looking for other suspects inside, making sure there's no one else still inside of this car that they were in pursuit of for nearly an hour here in the Los Angeles area, Tacoma area in California. Looks like they are searching this vehicle before they take this suspect into custody, now placing the handcuffs on him behind his back. Again, this was thought to be a stolen car. The suspect is thought to be a possible gang member who may have had a weapon on him, so looks like police struggling just a little bit as they try to take this person into custody here after a long police chase. And it does look like police finally have this situation under control as they have their suspect in handcuffs going into a police car. Of course, all those details as to what else this person possibly could be wanted for will now get all ironed out. Hopefully, again, police do have their other witnesses and suspects all to their availability to talk with. You can see police are continuing to search this suspect before putting him inside of this squad car, making sure that he doesn't have any other weapons or anything that could hurt an officer or himself with on him, placing him in that back seat before they will take him away.